Hello everybody. It's a pleasure to give you welcoming words on the orientation day to your studies. My name is Sirkka Heinonen and I welcome all those of you who have not yet been living in our country to Finland and all of you to University of Turku, which we like to call Futures University. And Finland can be labeled as futures country because we have a long tradition in academic future studies, but also activities at government level in foresight and corporate level as well. We also have foresight activities at the citizen level. In 1980, Finnish Society for Future Studies was established, and actually on this orientation day of yours, I'm in the annual summer seminar of the Finnish Society for Future Studies, and we have a very challenging topic for exploring future in the very long perspective, 100 years perspective. Finland is celebrating its 100th anniversary of independence this year, and in this seminar we are looking forward to the next 100 years. About my background, I would like to say that I've been Professor of Future Studies at University of Turku School of Economics since 2007, and I made my doctoral degree at Helsinki University. Before that, I have been working at VTT, Technical Research Center of Finland, almost 30 years. And actually, I was involved in future studies when it was first introduced to Finland late 1970s. My research topics and specialities are, for example, technology foresight. But I'm Doctor of Philosophy, and that means that I'm interested in studying the impacts of technology on humans, communities, and society. My research topics are also future of cities, future of sustainable information society, future of media, to give a few examples. I mentioned this Finnish Society for Future Studies. I've been president and currently I'm vice president of this society. I'm also involved in two other very important global think tanks in future studies. One is so-called Millennium Project, and the other one is the Club of Rome. And in your studies, we can use material from these two global think tanks in our courses and studies. Besides these roles, I have also been a guest professor in China at University of Science and Technology of China. In your master's program in future studies, the aim is to educate foresight experts who help organizations to prepare for futures, to harness future opportunities and to anticipate and avoid unnecessary risk. This means, in brief, that the aim is to help decision makers to make better decisions. So futurists are expected to support strategic decision making. I also want to emphasize that in our program, the aim is to generate and educate professionals who are competent to concretely conduct foresight projects and processes, because this skill is in growing demand in our turbulent world. And in our courses, we want to give concrete examples of foresight studies at companies, and also you can make exercises concerning corporate foresight. It is also important to learn about methods in this program of future studies, and I'd like to highlight that it is important to be able to choose from various methods the most appropriate ones. The aim of future studies, as I see it, is to a large extent about reducing uncertainties. Future studies helps to build this kind of foresight capacity at various levels. Governments, organizations, companies, even individuals. But also I'd like to emphasize that it is not possible to prepare exhaustively for every and single contingency that we face. However, it is possible to reduce uncertainty. Actually, future research can be characterized as the business of complexity, uncertainty, unpredictability, and surprise even. It is systematic explorative anticipation of alternative futures. It is not prediction. Stephen Hawking, even though he is not a future researcher, he has indicated very well this idea that the 21st century will be the century of complexity. So complexity is one of the core concepts in future studies. I mentioned Millennium Project earlier. Millennium Project has a lot of material, various methods that it uses, but it also has this very interesting framework of 15 global challenges. As I see the role of future researchers and futurists, it is to tackle global challenges. And this framework of 15 global challenges very well illustrates the complexity of our world. So whatever individual challenges are, we are also interested in studying their interconnections. So these 15 global challenges, they provide a framework to assess global and local prospects for humanity. We are in Turku School of Economics, and Peter Drucker, father of modern management, has actually characterized future, the concept of future, in an interesting way. He has said that future represents almost a way of being, a mindset and an approach that should be ever present in our thoughts. So actually, within future studies, this field, we also emphasize the element, this more general element of future thinking and future consciousness. Our colleague Sohail Innayatulla has proposed this concept of futures triangle, which is very appropriate for future studies. It has 3 points, and they are all needed. One point is way of history. We need that. We have to look also to the past. Then the other point is push of the present. It is horizon scanning of the current trends and driving forces. But what is interesting, he proposes that we really have to look at the third point of this future triangle, which is pull of the future. We have to also immerse ourselves in the future in order to visualize future alternatives, whether they are in the form of scenarios or futures images. And within this futures triangle with these 3 points, there is another 3-point framework that we have to bear in mind. We are looking not only at probable futures, but also at a wider range of possible futures, and within them we decide what are preferred futures. And finally, I'd like to point out that there are actually an interesting presentation by the Singaporean Foresight Center for Strategic Futures of the elements what makes a good futurist. First element is a never-ending intellectual curiosity. A good futurist is always seeking to learn more or dig deeper. Louis Pasteur already said, "Fortune favors the prepared mind." The futures researcher prepares his or her own mind to identify emerging issues by reading widely and taking an interest in a very broad range of different topics. Another element needed is an open mind and tolerance for uncertainty. The futurist intellectual flexibility is important, and it meets the test of a first-rate intelligence. As one of my favorite authors, F. Scott Fitzgerald, has described flexible intelligence to be. He says that it means the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain ability to function. Still another element needed for a good futurist is a can-do attitude, to be not easily discouraged by all kinds of setbacks or frustrations of driving change in organizations. And this I would characterize personally as a future's perseverance. In Finland we have this element characteristic called sisu. I'd like to extend it to future studies as tulevaisuussisu, which means this kind of future's perseverance. And I encourage you to use these elements already in the very first stages of your studies. So welcome to the first two courses in master's program that I will be teaching to you. Futu 1 is Foundations for Future Studies, and it is already starting on the 28th of August. And then immediately after this Foundations course, we will have Scenario Thinking course, and it will start on 18th September. So welcome, and once more, thank you.